Good morning, everybody. It is Monday morning chat. My name is Road to Recovery, and this video blog is about porn addiction recovery. This week we're going to be talking about anything you want to talk about. It's the Monday morning chat. This is your opportunity to interact with me and kind of discuss anything that might be related to your recovery effort. If I don't get any chatters on this morning, I will just talk about anything I want to talk about, and I always have things to talk about. That's my cat. He just walked into the room. Say hi, cat. So anyway, what are we going to be talking about this morning? I'm going to make it kind of brief. If I don't get any chatters in this morning, I'm looking for somebody that might want to do an interview. If you're still in the recovery effort, I don't care how much time you have in sobriety. If you just want to come online and chat, I will promise your anonymity, and you can stay anonymous. I can even go as far as distorting your voice, we'll distort your image, and we'll just pick a time and place. And apparently, my cat has a lot to say. How you doing, Kitty? You're gonna have to wait there, buddy. I already fed you. Animals gotta love them. Anyway, yeah. So if you're interested, drop me a line. You can go out to my Twitter and DM me, or you can email me at road the number two recovery 11 at yahoo.com. It's road number two recovery the number 11 at yahoo.com, and just tell me you're interested in doing an interview. And what we would just talk about is about, what your history and past was, and what your struggles are, and what your recovery efforts looking like. So it's pretty simple. Um, Things that had happened in the past week. We had a pretty active week in terms of like news and things like that. Um, One of the things I talked about on Twitter. Let me just read the post. A compass will point you north, but it won't tell you about the obstacles along the way. Recovery planning is a lot like this. It's important to know your direction, but taking time to plan things out helps you avoid the bogs, swamps, and sinkholes. Don't confuse the goals with the plan. And so the whole point of saying that is that you can have all these wonderful goals about, in your recovery effort, about being a better person, about, staying away from your vices, that sort of thing. Those are all wonderful and fine. If you don't have a recovery plan, what's going to happen the first moment you get a challenge, whether it's a craving or you step into something or trouble comes for you? Doesn't matter, man. The whole point of having that recovery plan is not only do you get to discover something about yourself, but it actually gives you an active set of tactics to practice when trouble comes knocking, right? So, work on your recovery plan, and always remember that it's not enough to have the goals. Having a goal is fine. I don't want you to not have the goals. It's actually really important. But you've got to add the recovery plan. And I say this specifically for the people who are in NoFap. I know with other recovery programs, there's like a system in place, right? So you're given a set of tools that you can work with. A lot of people that are just doing this, like, straight up blind or going through like NoFap, oh, I got to stay sober for 90 days. What does that mean? What's going to be your tactics for actually doing things? So, sit down, write down what your tactics are going to be. And there's plenty of recovery plans that are out there. Heck, I've even posted one up here on my YouTube channel. So no excuses, man. Start working on it. Um, what else? I saw a couple of postings, and one was by. Let's see if we can find it here. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, Louisiana is they passed a bill to go after porn sites that don't do age verification. I don't know how they're going to enforce that, but whatever. It's the world, man. The world's slowly starting to move towards that, and you shouldn't be surprised to see other states doing it. There is a crappy. I hate posting anything from the Sun because it's a really terrible tabloid of a newspaper. But they did have a pretty decent article. Unfortunately, it was done with the most flamboyant headline ever. I hate that crap. All right, so urgent warning as porn addiction cases double in a year. The warning signs reveal by Vanessa Chalmers of The Sun. In an increasingly virtual world, porn is but one click away. Half of the men and six and a sixth of the women in Britain watch porn regularly, according to the YouGov 2022 survey. For around 13 cents, percent of men, or zero women, in a daily occurrence. If you watch porn almost every day, you have wondered, how often does a person need to watch porn in order to have a problem? Well, there is no definitive threshold or formal definition of porn addiction. And unfortunately, they put that in quotes, and I hate that because there's no reason to do it. In fact, it is not a clinical diagnosis and is given only mention in the World Health Organization's compulsive sexual disorder description. But it is a very real issue, says Dr. Ree Langham, a porn addiction recovery expert at Stop Together. Tells the Sun, recently reports have found that over 6,000 people in the United Kingdom sought help for porn addiction online last year. That has almost doubled from the previous year, and that is an amazing statistic. There are there are also thought to be thousands of people suffering with porn addiction in silence, as well as those who don't know the signs and symptoms but are unaware that they may be addicted, which is also very relevant. And trust me, like the number of people I talk to that are still in that state of denial, the gooners and stuff like that. Oh, anyway, let's continue. It's thought that 2.5 million people visit porn sites every single second. So the number of porn addicts in the United Kingdom is probably much higher than 60,000. The Laurel Center, a porn addiction research center in London, says that told the Sun that they saw a drastic increase in the number of people coming forward for treatment, which has not slowed. Natasha Page, BACP psychotherapist and founder of My Little Therapy Box, said she has seen an increase in people bringing up porn addiction in their therapy room in the past year. Whether that is because of an increase or because of feeling more able to talk about it, I'm not sure, she told The Sun, noting that the most of her clients are males in their 20s. And I'm just going to put a pause right there and just talk about this. I actually posted something earlier last week about that, where I was talking about, and I think I was in a reply to, gosh, was it Your Brain on Porn? Think it was a reply to Your Brain on Porn. But in my reply, I was talking about the observation that I had. Guys, 5, 6 years ago in my recovery rooms, the average age was about 40 years old. You look around and they all kind of look like me. But now you walk into these rooms and they're all 20-year-olds. No joke. Like all my recent sponsees have all been under the age of 25. It's insane. All right, let's continue. It comes after a number of studies show that in early months of COVID pandemic, porn use spiked. Most people seek porn for sexual pleasure, but studies have shown that there is a number of other motivations, such as loneliness, boredom, anxiety, and other negative emotions. Natasha said a lot of people did struggle with mental health in lockdown, so it can be a form of escapism. The temporary relief and feel good chemicals like dopamine are released in the brain and and become addictive when a person is looking for relief from life stressors. Dr. Langham said, as with many addicts, when a substance is consumed or an addictive behavior like shopping, gambling, or gaming is carried out, the brain links with feelings or satisfactions, entertainment, relaxation, and happiness. Other times, this causes the brain's neurotransmitters to change the chemistry in the brain. Your brain becomes dependent on a specific substance or action and requires more of it at a more regular pace to feel good and function. Just like other addictions, porn addiction desensitizes your brain's reward system and can lead to a loss of focus and concentration, as well as mental health concerns. Now, interestingly enough, they're doing this. This is like a quote. It's like at the very top, I talked about the fact that when they were just talking about porn addiction as a concept, they put quote marks around it, like porn addiction. But when they're actually quoting somebody else, they don't do that. Now, linguistically, if you felt as an edit from an editorial standpoint that porn addiction wasn't a real thing and you needed to put quotes around it, you see where I'm going with this. It's like, um, you know, when it's coming from an actual expert, they don't seem to mind, not putting it in the quotes. Um, what are the signs? Dr. Lingdom said that people with porn addiction typically spend around 12 hours a week watching adult content. 12 hours is a lot. But experts agree that there is not necessarily it's not necessarily how much an addict watches, but rather the impact it is having on their life that constitutes the problem. Bam, bam. That's the money quote right there. Yeah, it's all about how it's impacting your life because you can have a dude that's like maybe I'm not going to say it's healthy, but you can have a dude doing 12, 15 hours a week or even more. That's just getting up every single day, going to work and having no problems and everything's honky dory. It's like the same deal with like the alcoholic, right? You got the person who could just go to the bar, you know, do two or three drinks, go to work, have no problems whatsoever, and still remain completely functional. And then you have other people that just are a complete fucking wreck, and that's the difference between addiction and non-addicted people's. It's not necessarily just like a dependency, but all the things that come along with it, and more important than that, it's how it's impacting your life. On the NHS page, can you become addicted to sex? It says sex addiction is a sexual activity that feels out of control. Dr. Hood said addiction is likely self defined, adding, if someone's accessing porn a couple times a week and usually has time and each time they're using it is for 15 to 20 minutes, that's not necessarily an issue unless it's an issue for them. It does tap into our belief systems and cultural social norms about porn. And unfortunately, that's the mess that we're in right now. And that's why we're not seeing porn addiction seriously considered for the DMS. And, um, you know, we need to have, I think, more metrics, but before those metrics can actually be applied, there needs to be some research done on pornography and porn habitual use. Because I have a feeling, you know, if it's up to me whether I'm a porn addict, and this is the problem, right? Um, Denial can be stacked, so deep that you would never be able to acknowledge it until you hit a wall, which is why, the 12-step program seems to be like an appropriate place for like the hardcore addicts. um, but that's the problem with it. It's like if you can't make criteria to say this is what constitutes porn addiction, then it's up to any arbitrary person saying, well, it's starting to ruin my life. And that's important. It's a good acknowledgement. But where I come from, I'd like to see, hitting the wall sucks, man. You don't ever want to do that. Wouldn't it be awesome if there was a metric that could kind of tease out whether or not you in fact do have a problem? And I think there probably is. I would say that, man, if you're watching 12 to 15 hours of porn every single week, you know, 12 to 15 hours, you could go to work and you could do all those other things and you could say to yourself like, hey, you know what? My life's not impacting. It's a regular part of my routine. Dude, 12 to 15 hours on your computer or other device looking at porn. I don't know, man. Even if it's not negatively impacting your life right now, right? You're still losing 12 to 15 hours of your life in front of a screen wanking to some friggin' porn. I think that we, society in general, and the scientific community in general, and more specifically, could come up with a better metric, and it's going to require more research and more understanding about like when the habit formation process happens, like how difficult is to get out of that. When we talk about smoking, right, when we talk about like the prior generation dealing with smoking, would you say that you had a problem after you did 2 or 3 packs a day, right? Or when you got the cancer, oh, I've got a problem, it's impacting my life now, I've got cancer. Right? What a ridiculous concept to measure addiction by, as opposed to saying, yeah, you know something, the brain starts losing its neuroplasticity after consuming X number of hours of content. If we could actually hone down on that actual number, we would be doing a lot better. Then we could do a generalized rule of thumb that says, yeah, man, if you're doing over 10 hours of porn a week, you got a problem. But good luck getting that research out, at least right now in this environment. Anyway, let's get back to it. Um, if If you Google porn addiction symptoms, you're likely to find a variety of descriptions given it falls under the umbrella term of sex addiction. Sex Addicts Anonymous, SAA, which I highly support, says forms of sexual addiction are differently to a higher are formed are different to higher libido because it's impossible to stop. Sex addictions are unable to stop their self-destructive sex addicts are unable to stop their self-destructive sexual behavior. It writes, noting feelings of shame, guilt, and lack of control arise. Some say that those with porn addiction neglect self-care, responsibilities, engage in illegal activity, and live a double life. All of that is true. Every single bit. Let me just repeat that. Some say those with porn addiction neglect self care and responsibilities, engage in illegal activity, and live a double life. And I'd tell you, like half the people in the rooms fit one of those generalized descriptions, man. And when they clean up, they're a cleaner human being. They're not living in their own freaking filth. They're not, going out seeking like the bizarre and the weird in terms of their sexual content. And I'd say like 9/10 of those people, like they all started out just normal human beings. They just kind of got into this like debilitating process of porn addiction, and that's what it does to them. Anyway, to continue, some say those with porn addiction. Oh, okay. However, they can outwardly live a normal life. Dr. Langham says with these individuals, they're able to work and carry out general responsibilities, including looking after children. They may engage in risky behaviors such as watching porn at work or even when their child is in bed. That's what I used to do. It's also not uncommon for people addicted to porn to prioritize porn use. Again, this is all shit I talk about. Watching it first thing in the morning, choosing to watch it instead of going to the gym or meeting up with friends, or even rushing home to watch it. Check, 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 check. I did all of that. Natasha said it was more of a psychological level than I could see uh, in the impact, the effect it has on relationships and their moods. That's obviously when you know that something is wrong. So, what she's describing here are like generalized symptoms, right? Things that you can really, as milestones or mile markers that you can say, yeah, if you're doing this sort of thing, it's probably time to kind of look at yourself and start doing this. Unfortunately, these are just suggestions. These are not, any sort of diagnostic manual, or these are just generalized rule of thumbs, and we need to do a little bit better. Of course, some clients may start to demonstrate more risky behaviors, such as engaging in online groups in relationships that may be viewed as cheating. And this is where kind of the social and moral qualms come in, because there's lots of people out there that would consider just looking at pornography to be cheating. So you got to fold that in with it. It's not that I necessarily agree with that. I'm just saying that there's a larger discussion there. Sexual dysfunction. One of the difficulties facing people who are addicted to porn is the impact on their sexual functioning, because porn is so virtually stimulating. Arousal with a person may sadly become not so arousing. Dr. Hood says pornography presses all buttons at once, whereas with a real person, you've got to deal with emotions and desires. You start getting sexual dysfunction because you're expecting the fantasy, and that's not what you're getting. Some women enjoy pornography, but it's mainly designed for male pleasure. It can be a problem for young men because they have to learn how to have sex with a real person, which is different to watching sex on a screen. And this is something I talk about. It's like you're basically skipping the you know appetizer and the main course, and you're going straight to the dessert when you eat the porn, and it's dessert, 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 dessert. And so your brain is clued in to like having all the good stuff right away. And sex with a real person, there can be going out, there could be dating, there could be foreplay, which some people find just boring. They just want to go straight to the routine and straight to the visceral experience of sexuality. And when porn is constantly delivering on that level, your brain just expects having that visceral sensation as opposed to something that's, say, more central, or something that's more slow played throughout the course of the night. And yeah, and so it takes all the chase out of it. Is a good way of saying it. It takes all the chase out of it, and that's not a good thing for you. And she goes on. I'm not going to read to the end of this article. It's quite a lengthy article, and I was actually kind of surprised to see this. And what I'll do is I'll post this into the comments if you guys want to read more. Anyway, yeah, that was a really good article, which is surprising because I considered the Sun to be an absolute dog shit of a publication. Um, what else do I have this morning? Oh, porn trance. Talk about this. Um, so what is a porn trance? Porn trance is, oh, what happened to my camera? Whoa, camera. I got to figure out what's going on with my camera here. I think the autofocus gets messed up when it focuses on those lights. I just set up the lights in the background. If I move my head over to the side, it wants to focus on the background. So I got to remember to keep my head centered. Um, yeah. So your porn trance is, it's what happens. It's a psychological state, and it has physiological presentation when we start engaging in our addiction, which is porn addiction. So porn trance, you can actually even Google image porn trance, and you'll see examples of like guys just staring at the stream like screens like zombies, like right. It's just it's like the expression kind of gets sucked out of your face, and you're just kind of like really into that zone, man, where you've got the blinders on, you're just staring right into the screen. And cognitively inside of the mind, it's all about like what's pleasuring you right there, and it just turns you into like a kind of a zombie. But I would add on to the concept of a porn trance. It's a cognitive loss of time. There's this temporal distortion that happens because all your brain is so engaged in the hunting and seeking activities, and like getting into um, the pleasures of what's being stimulated at before you even masturbate. Like this is the porn trance is the whole zombification of while you're being stimulated. So there's the sexual pleasures that you're getting at the moment that you're masturbating, but there's also the other sorts of pleasures that you get from just kind of taking in the content. And that's where like the dopamine's starting to like hit. Um, you know, Nepinephrine and some of the other neurotransmitters are really starting to flood your system at that point, and you're just a zombie. I have a comment. Um, wasn't a was in an addiction of pleasure. Was porn an addiction of pleasure for you, or was it some sort of self-harming coping mechanism? Um, I think it started out like I said. You have to remember, I was really young. I was really young when I started. I found my first porn magazine when I was 7 years old. I can remember the day. I got an excellent memory for that sort of thing. I remember finding my dad's Playboy in the top shelf of a magazine rack that he had inside of our living room. And my dad wasn't home because he was a traveling salesman. My mom wasn't home because she was at work. And so I pulled it out, and I didn't have the capacity to do anything sexual. I was just like looking at the pages. And I found the women like just beautiful. And I know it was like a different level, like, I wasn't having sexual utility out of it, but I was finding some sort of visceral experience out of looking at a beautiful woman, and it was pleasurable for me to just look. Like there's this, I don't know, voyeuristic element to it. And by the time I got like to 12 or 13, I can't remember when, things started popping for me, but then it was entirely sexual. Like, then the sexual element came in. But it's weird because like that sense of beauty, like looking at a beautiful thing and the sexual combination happen. Now, as I got older, like as you started getting into your teen years, life starts happening, man, and it's not always fun. So for me personally, when I was going through like lots of angst situations, when I started really feeling the pressures of the world and anxiety started coming into my life where it hadn't before, um, I started um, I started leaning into the pornography. So what I was doing at that moment was using the pornography as a way of feeling good, right? So then it starts taking on the properties of a drug. Now, at the time, I wasn't thinking about it like that. I was just saying, "Oh man, be nice to get off right now." Right? That's the voice of an addict. So I was in an addiction and didn't know it. All I knew is that, man, it'd really be really nice to get off right now. So, but as a teenage boy, your life's there's a lot of sex going on in my life at that point. So, I was also when I got a girlfriend, I was at that girlfriend's house on a regular basis. Um, you know, I utilize sex as a way to feel good, but I wouldn't say that that's anything out of the norm, right? But you think about it as you start progressing down that path now, right? More and more you start leaning on sex to kind of alleviate things that you don't want to deal with. And I had a lot of stresses in my life. I got through college. I had some academic stresses that I was dealing with because I had undiagnosed ADHD. I thought I was like some sort of dumbass or failure. So like I was constantly struggling with these things and constantly leaning on my pornography to kind of feel better and better and better. But if you were to ask me at the time that I was doing it, I wouldn't have said what I'm saying right now. I would say like, "Oh no, I just like sex." And that's kind of true, I guess, but there's a level of denial that I wasn't being able to see the whole history of my past and really be able to analyze it. Later, as I became an adult, obviously, you get married, you have kids, the challenges get more and more. I had more and more challenges at work, and this is something I made a video about. But my work challenges got so bad that my porn use went way out of control. Like I was putting in, like they were talking about 12 or 15 hours on this article. That was lightweight for me, man. Um, that would have been a very easy week for me. And then I can really say that's when I was putting out fires in my life. Sex was literally the only thing I was using to put out the fires in my life. And that's when I started realizing that I couldn't live without it. About a year and a half before my life blew up, I remember listening to a video of some woman. She was complaining about pornography. She was talking about it from a feminist perspective, and I was very antagonistic towards her. I was giving her a lot of crap, and I liked challenge. I like the academic challenge of taking a person on like that. So I read Dorkin just so I could challenge her on shit. And while I still have a lot of um, issues with some of Dorkin's work, you know, academic issues with Dorkin's work, I I was sitting there reading that, and I was saying to myself, She kind of has a point here." And then I started like analyzing, like, why am I so defending this? Again, I was still in active addiction, but I started challenging myself. It's like, could I live without this? And so I tried a couple times. I tried to quit. I never made it more than a couple of days. Never made it more than a couple of days. Um, So yeah, I wouldn't label it as a self harm mechanism for me. Coping mechanism for sure, but it started off as just a pleasurable experience. So it migrated from one area to another, and I think and this is a classic example of why you can't necessarily put people in nice, clean containers, right? I meet lots of different people in recovery spaces, lots of different people in recovery spaces, and every one of them has a completely unique and different story. No one manifests exactly the same. However, in the last few years, all the young guys I've been telling you about, that's a different story, man. Now I'm starting to see like the stories are becoming more and more similar with everyone having introduction to cell phones, with everyone having the same routines, right? It's kind of crazy, like how the stories have started merging together because of technology. Again, motivations may change depending on the person, but it's a good question. Uh, all right. Oh, LaFrance Turner. I gotta get that guy to get onto my channel. Him and I have to do an interview. Yeah, there's nothing more for me to talk about today. I gotta call it quits anyway because I gotta get back to work. So thank you everybody for tuning in. And now I think I'm gonna go feed that cat wherever he ran off to. So I will talk to you later. If you need to reach out to me, drop out to my Twitter account. You feel free to DM me there or email me at road to recovery 11 at yahoo.com. It's road, the number two, recovery, the number 11 at yahoo.com. And I'm still looking for a person who would be interested in doing a interview. It will not be live. We'll pre-record it. I'll do face blurs if you want that. I can also do voice distortions, but just looking for somebody to talk about their recovery experience. So, anyway, if that's you, reach out to me. If not, have a good day and stay on that road to recovery. Take care.